Hey, what is skip tracing for real estate? Well, skip tracing is a process where you find the contact information for someone that you want to contact. Now, in real estate, why would you want to contact someone? Well, you might want to know who's the owner of that vacant property, because maybe you could buy it and they'd be willing to sell it at a cheap price just because they don't need it anymore, or maybe it's got some issues. Or you might be in the business that I'm in, the overages business, where this person is owed a big lump sum of money and I need to get in touch with them to see if they want help in doing that. You may be looking for an absentee landlord that would sell you a property maybe at a cheaper price because they're tired of owning the property. Maybe you see some place that's just overgrown and looking decayed that has a tenant in it. Maybe you want to find the landlord to see if they want to sell it. So these are some of the reasons that when you're in the real estate business, do skip tracing. So let's talk about what's the process of skip tracing, because you have your own reasons for even searching on this term. So let's talk about what the process is. Well, these days, this is typically done over the internet by logging into a website, putting in the information you do have, and then getting in return full contact information for the person. Now, typically you need two pieces of information to do a successful skip trace. You need a name and you need an address, or you need a phone number, or you need email address. If you can know any two of those pieces of information, you'll generally be able to find the rest of the contact information for the person. So if you have, for example, a name and a cell phone number, I can get the mailing address, probably your physical address, all your social media accounts. You can get that whole record. These records generally need two pieces of information because just one isn't really enough. It can be, but the problem is then you don't know how to corroborate. Like if you had just a phone number, you could probably find it and probably get current information, but often phone numbers are reused. People don't have them forever. So when you run a phone number, you may find 2 or 3 different names associated with it. So you have to figure out who's the current one. So generally it's better to have two pieces of information, but you have whatever you have. If you're talking about a vacant property, I would look it up on the tax assessor's rolls, and then I would have two things. I would have the name of the person who owns it, because that's on the tax assessor's rolls, and I'd also have the address of the property, and I can go from there, run a search on one of the skip tracing services that's online, and then you better get the rest of the information. Some of the better services, the sort of Ferrari and Lamborghini in this area to me, are TLO, which is T like trans, L like Larry, O like outside, stands for TransUnion, which is the company that does, you may know them from credit reports. So TLO is a great service. And the other one is Accurint, which is ACCURINT. Think of like accurate intelligence or accurate information. That's run by LexisNexis. And LexisNexis is an enormous provider of data. I knew them at first as a lawyer because we would do our legal research on Lexis, and they had just vast databases of information on everybody about everything. Those two are the top two. Those are probably not ones, if you're just a casual skip tracer, that you're ever going to get access to, because they cost money. At least for TLO, you have to pre-qualify. There's a whole rigmarole you go through with that. But there are other services that are really great. You can do some online searches, and you can find services like Been Verified is a good one that we've used from time to time. That one's very inexpensive, and you can put searches in and generally get back very good results. And the results I'm talking about are usually current mailing address, current cell phone number, social media addresses, even the relatives. You want to talk to someone's relatives because you're trying to find them. Even that information is there. And the key is not to do the ones where they say, oh, do a search, and then they make you wait like 2 minutes pretending the system's going off and doing something. Although, computers, they work like that instantly. So they make you sit through a minute or two, and they say, oh, we found information for the advanced report, put in your credit card for $29. Well, $29 will get you a whole month of Been Verified, so that's a ridiculous amount to pay. So if you're doing this any kind of volume, you want to look up some different services and consider subscribing to at least 2 of them. Because one is usually not enough, unless it's TLO or Accurate, then it is enough. But of the lower priced ones, the ones that are easy to get, you can just access online. Usually 2 of them are good. And Intellius is one that's out there that's pretty good. Been Verified is out there. There are a whole bunch of them. Test them out and try them and start to see what kind of results you're getting. The ones I'm giving you are good. And when you look at the report, you really have to figure out if this is the person you're talking about, because with over 330 million people in the United States, there are people with the same name all over the place. So that's why you need a second piece of information. So for example, if I just have a vacant property and I look up and say, John Smith is the owner, then I look up John Smith, well, as you know, I'd see thousands of John Smiths. How would I know which one it was? The way you'd know is if you find the record where it has both John Smith and the property address on his record, that's going to be your guy. So that's why you need more than one piece of information. Also, when you're looking up information, you don't want to get too many results. You don't want to have to scan through 80 results. So the more information you can put in, like if you can put in the address and the person's name, or the address and their cell phone number, chances are it's only going to return 2 or 3 records, of which probably 2 of them will be duplicates, where it's the same person, just they happen to have 2 records for them, and that'll get you the information you need. The other thing to look out for is make sure that the middle initial doesn't conflict. So if you're doing what I do, for example, in Overages, where I get lists of people owed money and then go and find the people, let them know the good news and see if they will work with me to get the money. Or if you're talking about real estate, if you see that the owner is John R. Smith, you don't want John J. Smith or John Q. Smith or John M. Smith. All of those people are the wrong people. So when you're looking at your results, be quick to rule people out. If the middle initial is different, don't assume that the skip tracing records are wrong. I think that's a bad assumption. Instead, just say, no, I don't have the guy yet. Another piece of advice I'll give you, when you're dealing with, say, vacant properties, or for me in the overages business, or rundown properties, a lot of times the owner is deceased. And what you do with that is you want to get in touch with the relatives. Because you can call and say, hey, I think you're related to John Smith. He owns a property over on, Kingswood Avenue. I'm interested in. I'm just trying to get in touch with them. I understand he may be deceased, maybe not. And then you talk to them and see, and they may say, oh yeah, that's my uncle. My cousin Joe is handling the estate. You should talk to him. Let me give you his number. So that's the way you would do that. You would use the skip tracing where you skip trace the owner. Now, most of the skip tracing reports have an indicator that the person is deceased. You'll see a little indicator that says D for deceased. When that's the case, then just pick up the information from the relatives. You can put them in the skip tracing, get their information, and then reach out to them. You can give them a call, you can send them a letter, reach out to them and just say, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with your relative who's, as I understand it, deceased, but I'm interested in the house. Do you know who I would talk to? That's an easy conversation to have, and that's what you need to do. When you get good at skip tracing, you should be able to get hits 70 to 80% of the time, where 70 to 80% of the time, you're getting good contact information for the person. Also, you may find, especially if you're in the real estate business, some of these are corporate owned. It's an LLC or it's a corporation that owns it or a trust. And you say, well, what do I do with that? So let me give you those 3 scenarios so you can understand. If it's an LLC or a corporation, go to your Secretary of State website for whatever state you're in, whether Georgia or Florida or Pennsylvania or California, whatever. Go to the Secretary of State website, and there you can look up the business on that website, because all those businesses are registered with the Secretary of State. And typically in those papers, you're going to see either the officers. If you take a look at the annual reports, you'll typically see the officers of a corporation or the members of an LLC, and that gives you the person to contact. And you can skip trace that person and get their contact info. That's the way you're going to do that. If it's a trust, then I've got another trick for you. If it's a trust, because those are not registered entities, meaning the Secretary of State doesn't have information on those, then what you do with the trust is look up the deed on the property that transferred the property from a person into the trust. Usually that person is the one that is behind the trust. They're just putting it in a trust typically for asset protection or estate planning purposes, or just to get some additional privacy. And if you talk to the person that put the property into trust, that's probably the person that is in control of the trust, most likely. It's the closest you're going to come. So that's the way you do that. So again, look up the deed. You can usually get the deeds from 2 places. One, a lot of times these skip tracing services also have a hyperlink to the deed. Usually pay a couple bucks for it, but you can get it. The second way you can do it is in many counties, they have copies of their deeds scanned and available online. And all you do is you put in the property address information, you get the tax identification number, and from there you can get a copy of the last deed on the property. It may take you, when you're new, a little bit of fumbling around, maybe a call to the county recorder of deeds office or the county clerk's office to get some help with it, but it's very doable. It's not long. And once you do it once or twice, you'll be like, oh, that's the way it works, and it's pretty easy to do. So you can get that deed. And for trusts, that's almost always the person that is in control of the trust, and that way you can talk to that person. So that's skip tracing. It's one of those things that you can fumble around with. Oh, let me not miss this too. There are services like on Fiverr, on Upwork, where people will do skip tracing for you, usually not too expensively, usually a couple of dollars a lead. That can be very worthwhile if you're in, say, real estate where you just want to get lists of properties where people are delinquent in their taxes, and then you want to get contact information so you can contact these homeowners that might be interested in selling. That's pretty straightforward if you just get the list of names together and the addresses of properties you're talking about, hand that over to a third-party skip tracer, and usually for something like $3 or $4 a lead, they're going to give you the contact information for that person. And like I said, good skip tracers should be getting 70 to 80% of the time, they should get good contact information. So if you give them 10 leads, they should be able to get you good contact information for 7 or 8 of them. And that can be a great thing to build your business with. So that's skip tracing. It is really pretty simple. It's gotten much simpler recently with all the the data aggregators and data providers that it's become such a big business. So that's how you can locate people associated with your real estate business. So hopefully this was useful for you. If it was, please give it a thumbs up and I'll do more like this. If you have questions or comments, put them down below. I'll get to them as I can. I do look at these things from time to time. We'll see if I can answer your questions. And if you want more information about real estate investing and skip tracing and overages and all that kind of stuff, then please subscribe to my channel. That's what I'm talking about. I'm interested in those things. I'm interested generally in entrepreneurship because that's how I've made my living in the world, and I find it very interesting and fascinating. There's always something new to do, something new to learn, so I find it fascinating. So hopefully this is helpful. It's Attorney Bob Diamond, over and out for now.